Now, Gabby, would you do us a quick favor and just describe the Mental Health Navigator program?
Yes, of course. So the Mental Health Navigator program still in a pilot program. It's in its fourth year. It started in 2020 with its first cohort. And in the beginning, the idea was to offer, an extension of mental health service support. And due to some lack of resources at some community college, level, the program was, in essence, trying to combat those, preventive measures. And the Mental Health Navigator program trains students to help their peers on their respective campuses. And what we do as navigators is we find mental health resources or basic needs resources in the community to sometimes transition students from, campus-based services to community-based services so they don't, lose support in some level.
They've worked so hard to obtain in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay, moving forward, Danielle, how many schools are in the Navigator program?
Okay, let's see if I remember. There are 6 schools. There's Las Positas, Chabot College, Ohlone College, and then there's BCC, like Berkeley City College, Laney College, and College Alameda.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a few schools that actually offer that, which is great. Do me a favor. Tell me how students can get a hold of you or the program you're at Laney?
Yep, I'm at Laney College. There's so many different ways students can come in, like physically walk in the center and ask for services. They can go talk to their therapist if they've already requested services or seen a therapist. A lot of times we're getting our partners to say, hey, this person's looking for long-term therapy. Can you help us out? Or they're looking for some legal help. I'm like, okay, let's do it. But we actually have an official form on our website where students can fill out whether or not they'll be interested in getting connected to other resources or any type of other mental health stuff like workshops. Well, not really workshops, but more so mental health services, group and individual and couple sometimes.
Some guidance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Would you say it was harder to get mental health care prior to this program?
I will say that it was harder, especially coming out of COVID or trying to get readjusted to in-person classes for students. And there wasn't really a promotion of mental health services. They really didn't have as many resources as they do now. Now we're saying we're on a wait list. There's so many resources, so many requests, and the Navigator program definitely helps out with that because sometimes they're not needing to speak to someone individually, but just want to check on other options, even if that's coming in and doing a classroom presentation or a workshop or something. That's still part of the mental health services.
So there's always something available now at this point. I love it. I absolutely love it. Give me a second.
Two of us at Laney.
I would say they're different. I wouldn't say vastly different, but for example, at Ohlone, the referral process is mostly referral based. So the student sees a mental health therapist and then they kind of offer if they need further services or, for mental health, basic needs and other stuff. And then the student can say, yeah, sure. And then they'll connect us or the student to a navigator to further help them. And I know at, other colleges, it's like, for example, at Laney, it's like they can walk into the health center and see and talk to someone in that moment. I think at Ohlone, it's mostly remotely. We are able to meet students where they're at. So, sometimes they feel intimidated to walk into the office. Yes. So we hold either phone calls, Zoom calls, or anything like that. And I would say it has changed mostly, like Danielle mentioned, because, I wouldn't say post-pandemic, but let's just call it that. There's, the population of students on campus is increasing as the semesters, go on and the years. So knowing that there's a lot more students on campus, we have to be mindful that, there's going to be more traffic, students coming into the student health center to get services. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. I'm going to come over to you, Kyla. Would you do me a favor? And I know it comes in semesters, first semester, second semester. Can you kind of describe what happens during your first semester as a student coming into the mental health care navigation program? What do you learn your first semester?
Well, so this is my first semester.
What are you learning your first semester?
So coming in, I think most of the focus, so Laney is a little bit unique in that we have a combined position where the students are both mental health navigators. So we do like
Resource connecting.
basic needs. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, great. So we do, sort of case management, basic needs, helping students access housing or food when we work with the Basic Needs Center. And then there's also an ambassador position, which is more peer counseling and outreach and teaching about mental health to the community of students. And so at Laney, we get to do both. And I'd say that a majority of the students that get funneled to us are through basic needs. And what's been incredible about this position is really understanding how many resources are available in Alameda County. I've been in some capacity in the mental health field, so I was aware of some, but there are so many resources available. And I think the thing I'm learning is just people don't know how to access it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the primary focus of the Navigator program is to show them how to access the multitude of care that's out there. We just
Yeah.
don't know it exists.
And a lot of the barrier is, students are incredibly busy.
Yeah.
On top of that, our student population, a lot of them have some serious barriers to resources. So the mental and emotional load that goes into finding the resources, applying for them, the follow through is immense.
Yes.
And so a lot of our position is about helping relieve them of those barriers.
Mhm. And keeping them consistent. I read that.
Keeping them consistent. Following up,
That's a big
emailing,
deal.
calling.
Yeah, and if I can piggyback off of what Kyla was mentioning is, since the Mental Health Navigator program started with mostly connecting students from mental health resources on campus to community-based resources, in actually I would say the last couple of years, since this is its fourth year, but between, I would say, last year and this year, we've incorporated a lot more connection into our basic needs center on campus to make sure that we're also touching on those basic needs and not feel like we're doing double case management, if that makes sense, because it doesn't make sense, right? Like you think, for example, Paul at Ohlone College, he's the one that's in charge over their basic needs. And when we had conversations, it's like, we're kind of doing the same thing, but backwards, because we start with mental health services, but we also see students that are like, well, I need help finding housing and I'm having trouble finding resources for like legal help and things like that. And for him, it starts with basic needs, housing, food, legal help. And then it kind of transitions into, well, whole person care. Like, how do we combat that?
What is
separation?
Whole person care?
So whole person care is when you're not only looking at the person's, mental stability, you're looking at housing and how they're being fed and how they're able to cope in the college community level. Because one of the things that, I don't know if you all have ever heard this, but the culture around like the education system and being so educated driven and, focusing on like climbing the ladder, you don't know at what level you're like not eating, not sleeping, and not making sense of things. And that's where students kind of start dropping in grades. So when you're thinking of whole person care, you want to make sure you tackle all their needs in order for them to thrive.
Yes, it sounds like holistic healing.
Exactly.
Whole person,
Yeah.
holistic, absolutely. All kind of taking a holistic approach to
Right.
mental health within this whole conglomerate of big business. You're kind of making it really accessible, which is wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to come over to you, Daniela. Can you just give me a little bit of background and how you got here and, kind of your steps and even finding yourself in this moment?
That's a great question. Background. Well, excuse me. I grew up in New York City. Very interesting time, but definitely grew up with a lot of diversity. So that's something I think I've always honed in on. And I've moved around on the East Coast. And my last adventure there was a hairstylist. I owned a salon. And I actually got engaged in the middle of doing a renovation. So my partner was out here, and I'm like, gotta go. And so I've been out here since February last year. It's been quite an adventure, to say the least. I actually worked at a job where I felt like I wasn't really connecting or doing something helpful. Like, something, it just wasn't in the field that I was used to. It wasn't impactful. I mean, I could say what it was, but, I won't. It was just like, this is not what I want. Like, yeah, okay, people have fun with this, but I need something that's more my speed. Mm-hmm. And as a hairstylist, it's like you're getting those conversations every single day and like what people really need. Like I have clients from like teenagers to adults who are like in government, you know what I mean? Or like actresses, like models. And I'm like, you all experience things where you're in a world of stress or things where you can't quite connect to your people and like talk about yourself and your family. So having that space definitely encouraged me to be more of a coach. So then I became a therapist.
I love that, a therapist, because your hairstylist and your barber is kind of like your therapist. You sit there, you talk, you tell them your day, and then, you kind of absorb all that. So you get to see people from many different walks of life. Absolutely. As a hairstylist.
And even so, like a lot of people moved to the location I was at from different like spaces, and they don't really see their families. So you're thinking, okay, I'm seeing this person once a week, every week for 52 weeks. I probably see you more than you see your mom, or so it's like having that
family,
having that confidential space. So that kind of encouraged me. I did miss it, but when I came to Laney, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like I get to kind of start this new program as a student services specialist and really help get our numbers up in like mental health and outreach and all that stuff. So being at Laney College allowed me to do that. And when I got there, there were 2 navigators from this program there. And both very grateful that I came there because there was just so much need going on and not as much administrative help. So I kind of filled in some shoes. And I looked at the things that we did last year that may not have worked as well. So this year, I'm like, all right, let's change it a little bit. Like, let's do some tweaks and see how this goes. And at first it was like, okay, everyone's going to be like, I want resources and basic needs and all this stuff. So let's like still keep the referral-based process, but also talk to students directly. So when they're coming in, they're like, man, I just need help, like financially. I'm like, do you know that there's this emergency fund that you can apply for? Let's do it right now. So just having those one-on-one conversations to really know what they're talking about and what they need was very important. But all of this is definitely helping me as I know that I'm going to become a marriage-friendly therapist soon.
That was my next question. What is your aspiration for the future?
Definitely want to become a marriage-friendly therapist. I'm a relationship coach, so it's kind of in my blood. And yeah, a lot of my passion does stem around relationships and people and building those. So definitely, and Laney, you have to build those relationships.
Are you in your second or first semester at Laney?
I'm in my last semester at Laney, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, second to last semester, last year at Laney.
Lainey, okay, so when you first arrived, you had one position. So can you kind of categorize or give it a word of what your position is within the mental health program at this point?
So many positions under that
You
one
wear
position.
a lot of hats,
I'm like,
don't you?
they're like, just call yourself a coordinator. I'm like, I'm not really a coordinator, but I kind of, one of the trainees, the mental health trainees that's there, she described me as the glue. So it's like triaging issues and like helping students, but making sure I'm helping the navigators and
I
like
knew
kind
there
of
was
like
something.
double teaming with the other liaison, Susan. We are tag teaming to kind of help the Navigator program work. So I'm like, if I'm in the Navigator program, I can see hands-on what's actually needed, what works and what doesn't.
I love that.
I have the direct feedback from the former navigators, the current navigators, so that we can continue piloting this program to like work for everyone's needs. And I will say at Laney College, the needs are quite different in Oakland,
Okay.
compared to different campuses. So just want to make sure that we can all work under the same vision, but just focus on what's needed at each campus.
All right, well, Miss Glue. I think it's very appropriate. Danielle, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you. Gabby, I'm going to come over to you.
Yeah.
How you doing over there?
Just breathing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Keep it going. Can you tell me a little bit about you, your upbringing, what brought you here?
Okay. So yeah, I am currently a mental health navigator at Ohlone College. As we mentioned earlier, I'm also a Cal Cities-based student. I'm in my last semester, majoring in psychology.
Nice.
My background, I know I'm
Dish.
yeah. Okay. So I actually immigrated from Mexico when I was 6. I'm an undocumented immigrant currently in the country for over 30 years. I would say I know we were talking about this earlier too, but I wouldn't change the way things have worked for me. But yeah, so growing up in California as, a full-blown Mexican, as I like to call it, because it has been very difficult and challenging, especially growing up with a single mom, absent father figure, and 2 older brothers. I was basically like the meanie mom of the household, trying to, help my mom around, also being like her marriage therapist in a sense since I was very little. So I think that's where my passion grew for mental health and I didn't even know what mental health was obviously at that age, but if I'm circling, let me know, because I feel like I'm trying to gather myself and my thoughts.
Circle away. That's how we find it.
Yeah. So technically growing up in California, undocumented immigrant has been, I've seen challenges all the way around. I was focusing in what I really wanted to do with my life, like living in the day-to-day life, I think my focus was more on like, what are my needs today? I have to survive. I have to help my mom. I have to work. I have to, be an exceptional human to make sure that I don't disappoint anyone.
You have strong shoulders, would you say?
Yes.
Carrying a lot.
Yes, for sure. So, I'm 38 today, 3 children of my own.
Today?
Yeah.
Is your birthday?
No, I said 3 children. I have 3 children as of today, raising 3 kids over the last, 14 plus years.
That's a superpower.
Yeah, I've married to my wonderful high school sweetheart for over 15 years now. I feel like that has allowed me to grow more as a person than if I would have just gone straight to college after high school.
Absolutely. So
my path has been up and down for, I would say, over, since I graduated high school. So it's been a whole road that has been trying to teach me. And I say teach me because I felt like I had no path and no guidance. My family is not college driven or education driven. I'm not going to say I'm the first one to graduate from high school or college. But I know for sure I'll be the first doctor female in my family because that's where my head is at.
Yes.
But, just thinking of my upbringing, that's basically what has brought me here. And I think there wouldn't be a perfect moment for me to be in what I'm doing now, which is I know it doesn't seem like as much, having a student role on a college campus. But for me, it honestly felt like it opened up so much perspective into what does it mean to actually help someone? What does it look like to have compassion? What does it look like to want to help others, not coming from a selfish place or like, oh, it makes me feel good to help others. It comes from a place of knowing what I needed at that age and I didn't have it. It's like, I know these young students will thrive if they have the support that I needed at that time,
Exactly. And you know what it is because you had to find it on your own.
Exactly.
Okay, now we've got, you want to piggyback on that, Danielle? Go for it.
I know.
Thank you.
I'm a little sap. So I'm like, just being with Gabby and like having these conversations, it's like always inspirational, especially being about to turn 30 in January. Don't tell anyone. But yeah, I like experiencing 3 different careers and like being like, dang, am I in the right? But now it's like everything kind of is in alignment, like when you talk about growing up and like facing those challenges, it's like, okay, I went to foster care and I had this crazy dad who, like, it was like a moment in time. Like, I paused, right? He was just yelling one day and like going crazy. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, why are you so angry? And like, it felt like the room stopped.
It's a valid question.
It was a great question. I'm like, the power of a question I found out at 11 years old because it changed the way he acted in the moment. He cried and he shared his whole life story. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot. Like, I would be angry and crazy just as much as you, but also taking from that, where's his stuff coming from? It's not anything to do with me. But it taught me the power of a question and like what that could do. So I'm like, you're so angry at me. Look at the way you treat your mom. Like this is a pattern. Like you don't want me to treat you this way. And, he followed it with whatever he did. But it just made me realize, okay, this is the field I want to be in. I want to be able to make these types of changes. And even if it was for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like it changed the dynamic.
When you ask a person a question, it forces them to kind of go within so that they can answer it. Yeah. And you're like, why am I so angry? I don't know. Well, thank you for that, Miss Glue. You've got your glue, Danielle. So, Gabby, if you had to give yourself a cool title, what would you be? She's the glue.
My official title?
Yeah, you can give me a title. You can give me your official title, and you can give me like your superhero title.
This year, it's actually my 3rd year in the navigation program.
Very cool.
So I was promoted to senior program assistant.
Okay.
Actually, last year I was navigator / program assistant. So I'm growing, and I'm learning. I'm very proud of that. And I'm like, I know Sang tells me all the time. Sang, it, by the way, is the program director and the one that piloted this program. So she always says, down the road, I just see it. You're going to be running this program. And I'm like, yes, may God hear your words, because I think I wouldn't be happier doing anything else now that I've been doing this work, and maybe at a macro level, but
Conductor kind of came to mind.
Exactly.
Like you're conducting everything, like a music conductor. Like you're just kind of,
I like
all the pieces together.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a supporter. So, I hold office hours off here and there. And not every time someone comes in with a technical problem that I can solve. It's more of like, let's talk it out.
Yeah.
Let's talk it out and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I know they hear this a lot from me when they talk to me, but I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? Like, what do you have to lose?
Nothing.
You're not going to lose anything crucial, important, but you will at least leave knowing that you did your best and you were able to express exactly how you felt.
And you have a better understanding.
And if they don't understand that, touche.
Right? But not understanding, exactly is kind of a good thing. It's a form of understanding. I know that I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Gabby. Yeah. Kyla, I'm coming to you, my darling. I would love to hear just a little bit about your background, what got you here, what progress. Yes, share.
What do I share? How much do I share?
All of it.
So I grew up in San Jose, just down the road. It's funny. I've been sharing with Danielle a little bit as we get to know each other as coworkers, and I think at this point in my life, one of the things I'm reflecting on is how relatively privileged my upbringing was in so many ways. And I just couldn't get over this feeling that like there was more connection that was available that we weren't accessing, especially as a family. Um, you know, I grew up in a household with an alcoholic father. And, you know, I think I just read something like 1 in 4 children in America grow up in a home with alcoholism. And again, it was like, my parents stayed married. They seemed to like each other
Right.
enough to stay married. We always had food on the table, but there was so much that went unsaid, so much that so many ways that we missed each other as people that seemed to cut me in a way that it didn't for other people. And all the ways that I learned how to cope with that really helped me out until I ended up moving out of my parents' home. I was in college. I was one of these college students that Gabby was talking about. I actually went to Mills for my undergrad, and after community college, started at community college, got to rep the community college. Transferred to Mills, was in Oakland for the first time, and all of the coping mechanisms that I had developed to manage all of my grief, all of my anger were not only no longer effective, they were actively working against me. So, I mean, one of the things I think about my sense of humor, in San Jose, it's that the peak of humor was to sort of like cut somebody down in a creative way. And so I got really good at that. When I went to college, it turned out that really upset a lot of people. Hurt their feelings, was not considered very funny. So being really likable was something that helped me feel safe. I'm like, can I swear on here? Anyway.
Go for it.
I was just like, I was a real asshole, and people let me know, and that was really challenging. My anxiety went through the roof. I also didn't know we had therapists on campus. I ended up getting diagnosed at the time with a generalized anxiety disorder. So I used school therapy for a little while. I realized I wanted long term. I wanted to heal. I had some really, I think my sort of rock bottom was I would get panic attacks a lot in the car. And I started hyperventilating one night. Actually, I was right in front of the exit for Ohlone College, and I lost control of my muscles. And I realized that I was going to pass out, so I pulled off to the side of the road and called 911. I had bottles of Xanax in my apartment prescribed to me, and I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I don't want my whole life to be taking pills to manage. Like, there's got to be something else. And I ended up getting an internship in my final semester with a program. The chapter was in Oakland. I ended up moving to San Diego to be a part of their larger program. They did non-traditional outpatient recovery for women. And they took whoever wanted to be there. So even though I wasn't going in for traditional reasons, I was like, I want to feel better. I want my life to feel good without medication. And so I spent 3 years in an outpatient program
near the water
in San Diego.
Yes.
Beautiful. And this wasn't, yes, near the water, midnight.
That was part of the
dips. It was absolutely a part of the healing. There was so many things that were incredible and life-changing about the program, and they were not well funded. They had some issues with, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but with their finances, and there were unethical practices going on. And keep in mind, I'm one of the lesser vulnerable people in this program. So they're dealing with some like incredibly vulnerable populations. Don't have the resources to hire people who are trained in mental health, who understand the complexities of different. Totally blanking on that word.
Copy that.
Diagnoses.
Can you say that again? Understand the different.
They didn't understand the complexities of different diagnoses for, again, like really vulnerable people. And I started to see and started to experience myself some really adverse aspects of this healing that left me with two sort of interesting and opposing thoughts, which was I'd never felt more fulfilled in my life doing mental health work. And this is not working. And so what got me here was a long journey of how do I create a space, how do I work in the mental health field in a meaningful way that also has ethical practices, research-backed methods, so that I know that I'm not causing more harm.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then they have the financial resources as well. Yeah,
and have the financial resources to do it.
You made it. You did it.
Yes. And I was planning to go to college to I want to be an
What is that an
MFT
acronym
as
for?
well, a marriage and family family therapist.
That's you as well, yes? MFT.
Yes. Yes. Or an LCSW, I suppose, a licensed clinical social worker. A little nuance there. But I'm doing prerequisites at Laney for graduate programs. And
So proud of
thank
all
you.
of us.
And I was thrilled
Yeah.
when this job came up.
Okay, same question to you. She's the glue. I call you the conductor. And what would you say, your professional role title, and just kind of something you give yourself is like, this is me in this area of my life.
My professional role title is a mental health navigator and ambassador. I'm looking over at Danielle because we work together.
Right? What would you say?
I think I'm going to go with the river.
Okay. Expound on the river.
I'm thinking of, I want to say I'm a grounding presence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I am able to access, I think one of my gifts is being able to access feeling.
Yes, I almost wanted to call you, not security, but you like observe and report.
Observe and ooh.
Yeah, you kind
I've
of
always
do
been told I
that.
have a great, like a reporter.
Yeah, just
This
from
is
listening
Kyla
to you,
Kelly
take
with
note
the-
of what's going on.
Can I just make a highlight that I don't know if you all noticed, but there is a lot of insight that you and myself, I feel, have had. And that is one of my highlights right now because it's not the same story, but there's a lot of insight that you had into how you were raised and how the dynamics didn't work and how Danielle dynamics didn't work and how I'm like, this is not the way it's supposed to be. And we are change makers. So own it.
Change makers.
Change makers.
We got a new hashtag.
Yeah.
Starting the group chat right now.
I love it. I love it. You do. All in divine order. All in divine order. Let's see. I think this is wonderful. Now, moving forward, can you see or think of any changes you would make to kind of propel it even more and give it some more momentum? Anything? Let's go ahead and give it to you first.
For the Navigator program?
Or should I hand it over?
I can go.
You can do it. Go for it.
Changes. I will say that maybe the one thing that we probably could definitely use some spiffiness to it is just the liaison dynamic of it. Is just really hard to get all of the liaisons, and those are like usually the mental health professionals who are at the campuses.
I see.
They coordinate with Sang and Gabby to, run the program. So having more cohesiveness with that would be ideal. And maybe I think about Kyla a lot with this. So she's been very river-like in saying those things or flowing with things. And I see all right, Kyla, she's very different from most of the navigators where she's already gotten her bachelor's, right? She's going into graduate school. And I'm like, dang, what position would work with Kyla? What are her strengths? And a lot of that is the holistic and the groundingness. And I know you're going to be a great holistic person because that is just your thing. And she teaches me things every day. And I'm like, wow, you're really good at this.
Exactly.
So just maybe shaping our strengths and what our interests are to the program. You know what I mean? What could you do to hone in on your skills and become more whatever in your graduate studies, and for you, hopefully becoming a director and a doctor. What could you do? And I feel like you're in that position, right? And then myself also, I'm like, okay, I was advocating last year. I'm like, I have to be a part of the program because it has to have some type of knowledge on what is actually going to work.
Okay.
So honing in on our skills and different...
The connection between the professional liaisons versus the students.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So a little bit more glue there.
Yeah.
She really is.
A little bit more glue there.
Yeah.
Gabby, do you want to piggyback on that? What could be
yes,
improved
of course.
possibly moving forward?
Everything that Danielle mentioned right now, I think is one of the main objectives of the program is to make sure that if this program is implemented in community college campuses at a larger level, because if we're thinking of the California community college level, there is 116 campuses across California, right? So we're serving about 2.1 million students. And more recently, right now before it leaves me, we recently had a meeting, or we were part of the chancellor's meeting for the community, California community, level, to discuss what the program is and what it's doing in its campuses. But in order for us to implement it in every single campus, how is the liaison communication going to be in order for it to be functionable? Right? Because I think earlier we mentioned something that is different is the roles and how they kind of transpire throughout the semester and what kind of changes happens for them and how they fit into the roles, right? Or what to use their strengths in order to make the program work. So for me, the macro level, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a visionary. I like to think myself as a visionary, and I want for this program to serve as many students as possible. And in order for that to work, it has to work first within the college, and it has to be structured in the way that it fits for every college.
Okay, so take it back. Conductor, visionary.
Yeah.
We've got glue, we've got visionary, and we've got the river. I love that. River, Kyla, would you like to add anything to some possible improvements moving forward?
I would absolutely agree. I would love to see this program on every community college campus, and money.
That tends to be the general issue.
Excuse me.
I think at Laney in particular, I think we need a bigger space. I think we could be really expanding what we offer. And we have an amazing dean who is doing everything he can to support us in that respect. But I just see so much potential in this program and so much that's already changed in the outreach. The students who are like, I didn't know that this was available to me. I would love to sit down and have tea and do a coloring page when I'm feeling stressed out, like I
That
feel so
sounds divine.
safe, right?
Yes.
Like peer support is one of the, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but one of the big main elements in healing work, and having another student who can guide you through is also so much more accessible than going maybe to like the especially I just
Exactly.
remember, especially as like a new student, like a 20-year-old going to talk to a professor or like the dean of someone. It's
intimidating.
very intimidating.
Yeah, it is. And when you have a peer kind of helping you out, it lets you know that you're not alone.
Absolutely.
You've done it. I can do it too.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we have so many people come into the center who are like, I need the support, but I could also see myself doing this for others.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this could be huge.
It will be huge. I can sense it. I love it. This is a beautiful program. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your stories and giving us your time. Glue, Visionary, and River. Thank you so much. The Mental Health Navigator program is doing big things and moving forward. Their future is bright. This is Phoenix Rose with the HHREC podcast. We love you. Surround yourself with people that love you. And most importantly, y'all, you love you. Love and light.